Good afternoon, and welcome to our session titled Organizational Agility, the Key to Digital Growth. Today, we're going to discuss ways organizational agility can be reached and the impact it can have on your organization. My name is Jennifer Johnson. I am the Global Industry Marketing Lead here at Workday for retail and consumer product goods. I'm joined today by two experts in the retail and consumer product goods space, and they'll be sharing their perspectives on this topic, as well as real-life examples on how organizations are obtaining agility and resilience. As you know, now more than ever, retailers are needing to be more agile to respond to and adjust to changing market conditions. Organizational agility is the ability of a retailer to renew itself, adapt, and succeed in a rapidly changing, ambiguous, turbulent environment. There are many aspects that impact organizational agility, and today we're going to explore a few of them, including skills, workforce allocation, communication and collaboration, and how access to real-time data can provide fast and informed decision-making. First, let's meet our panelists. I'd like to welcome Laurent and Anne. Can you please introduce yourself, your company, and your roles? Anne, do you mind going first?
Thanks, Jennifer. I'm happy to do so. My name is Anne Kotzorik, and I'm a managing director in Accenture Strategy and Consulting Consumer Goods and Service Practice based in Düsseldorf, Germany. I bring almost 20 years of professional HR experience. There are 15 years as a consultant with Accenture. Accenture is a global leading services company with almost 506,000 employees globally and $44.3 billion in revenue in our last fiscal year 2020. Now over to Laurent.
Thank you, Anne. My name is Laurent Meyer. I'm industry advisor for retail in EMEA, based in Paris, France. I bring 20 years of professional experience in retail and technology, thereof 2.5 years as industry advisor with Workday. Workday is a leading provider of enterprise cloud application for finance, planning, and human capital management, helping customers adapt and thrive in the changing world. Workday has 12,400 employees around the globe and serves 7,900 customers worldwide, with more than 70% are live.
Great, thank you both. Now let's get into the core of our discussion. The first question I have is for you, Laurent. Companies need visibility into their employee skills and any potential skills gap in order to address their changing business needs. How do you see skills insight, reskilling, and employee development impacting organizational agility?
Thank you, Jen. That's a really good point. As the industry is changing at an unforeseen pace right now, we are now entering a skill-based economy, where companies must adapt their HR strategy from recruiting to performance management, talent and development to adapt this new reality. To gain in speed and efficiency, we see more and more organizations restructuring from a hierarchical business model to a project-based squads kind of model, with specific set of skills that come together for particular task or initiative. To face this new market move with agility, retailers and CPG companies will need to constantly adjust and scale the skill supply and the skill demand within the organization to respond customer expectation, but also technology acceleration, new players and disruptor entries. To do so, I see two main domains on which to focus. The first is to be able to map and monitor company skills reservoir and identify trending skills. I will take the example of Patagonia. Patagonia has grown to a tiny company to a global leader in fashion. What they're doing, they are using artificial intelligence to be able to map the skills inside the whole of the company and identify which skill is required to certain task or job and help fluidify the movement inside the company. The second example, the second domain I want to stress is to be able to adjust skill supply in retraining and in reskilling to build tomorrow's leader and keep up with market evolution. And I want to take the example of a great big grocer in US that has reviewed from A to Z its own learning policy, starting with the fact that 75% of their management structure was coming from hourly workers. So they revisited their approach on recruiting and learning, coming from more hybrid learning, on-job learning, but also coaching and peer-to-peer interaction within the company, and also building an academy across their store. But I would like to have the voice of Anne on this particular topic. Anne?
Thanks, Laurent. I share your view. So we as Accenture also see a highly increasing demand for up and reskilling since the outbreak of the pandemic in particular. And in fact, our recent employee study with 5,400 workers and more than 700 C-level executives conducted between April and July 2020 showed that the employable need of a worker is one of 6 essential human needs in the so-called net better off model that explains 64% of a worker's potential. As you can see here on the slide, the other 5 human needs are emotional and mental, relational, physical, purposeful, and financial. In the study, we found that the entire C-suite is rethinking their responsibility. Prior to the pandemic, 35% of CXOs fully embraced the responsibility to support people's holistic needs. Now, in the past 6 months, this has escalated dramatically to represent more than 50% of the CXOs. With regards to the employable need, employees need to see concrete actions and offers from their employers that keeps them skilled for their current jobs and employable in the future. Accenture is engaged in a number of upskilling programs at consumer goods and services and retail clients, for example, with Henkel, who seek to define future-proof people capabilities that put the consumer and the customer at the core. And also artificial intelligence-based skill management can help to accelerate upskilling at scale. Together with retailer Walmart and consumer goods and services conglomerate Unilever, Accenture is engaged in the World Economic Forum Consumer Industries Task Force. Through this collaborative industry effort, these organizations are working on a 10-week pilot that will serve as a proof of concept of reskilling and redeployment efforts that, once they're scaled, can help people to remain productive and employable in a transforming labor market. This is part of our responsible skilling agenda that we as Accenture have committed to pursue, and it's at the same time also an example for rapid reskilling and personal development as one of the key factors for retailers to achieve organizational agility.
Great. Thank you both so much for those insights. Let's move on to question 2. Building an agile workforce allows organizations to swiftly adapt to changing needs of customers, employees, and the market. How do you feel that workforce allocation and employee mobility impact organizational agility? Laurent, do you mind starting?
Yeah, for sure. So, in the past months, from lockdown to curfew, as well as looseness of these measures, have caused challenge and headaches to retail and CPG companies, creating dilemma of what scenario to plan, to prepare for how and swiftly allocate resources where most needed. Not to mention they had to deal with extraordinary activities such as cleaning stores and production facilities, scheduling more frequent deliveries or shelf replenishment, hiring additional labor. In this context, to stay agile and reactive, industry players need to understand what level of resources they have on hand, where to reallocate them, and efficiently redeploy them. There are 2 main domains where technology was able to increase agility through allocation and mobility. The first one was continuous and dynamic resource planning based on what-if scenario. Pandemic has reinforced the need for continuous planning based on more robust scenario planning with greater coordination between HR and operation to ensure satisfying staffing level and thus business continuity. I want to take the example of our customer base. Since the emergence of the COVID-19, Workday customers have increased the amount of planning, scenario modeling, and recalibration by a factor of 15, enabling their companies to continue operation. The second point is, while continuously analyzing changes and planning for various scenarios, they need to increase efficiency of resource reallocation by streamlining and adapting operational processes. I will take the example of grocer in US, Schnuck Markets. They quickly onboarded 1,500 temporary employees with Workday, which was the equivalent of 5 times the normal hiring they were doing in the same amount of time. So they could clock in and out and get paid weekly. They also redeployed their corporate employees to have their store near their home. So they had to do it quickly to make sure that their store stayed open. But maybe Han can give her a voice on that too.
Thank you, Laurent. Actually, I would like to complete your perceptions with some of the key findings that we found in our retail consumer research that we conducted between March and July of this year to explore the impact and implications of COVID-19 in the consumer world. The research was conducted in 8 waves, and in total, we surveyed about 56,000 consumers across 19 markets. The research findings clearly showed that what consumers are buying and how they're shopping has changed dramatically as a result of the pandemic, and these new habits are here to stay. Consumers are nowadays striving to shop locally, mindfully, and more cost-consciously. 56% of consumers are shopping in neighborhood stores or buying more locally sourced products, and 80% of them are planning to continue with this behavior in the longer term. So COVID-19 has, on the one hand, fundamentally changed consumer behavior, and on the other hand, largely accelerated trends like the rise of the e-commerce and new digital channels. So undoubtedly, I agree, Laurent, retail companies need real-time data insight and modeling capabilities in their skill supply and the expected skill demand to increase organizational agility and be able to respond to that particular demand. We see skills becoming a new currency in the employee experience. For example, in skills-based career pathing and skills-based project scheduling. It helps companies to better understand and leverage their employees' skills. And it also helps employees to better understand where and how to best utilize and improve their skills.
Again, terrific insight from both of you. Let's move on to the employees and let's talk a little bit about empowering and engaging the frontline workforce and how that's critical to retaining a committed workforce and how ensuring alignment with the company culture. How does communication and collaboration help ensure this? Laurent?
Yes, I would like to start with the communication aspect. The last months had a huge impact, not only on the industry, but also on its employees, not just physically or financially, but emotionally too. For many customers I had the opportunity to talk to in the last months, communication was instrumental in the response and impacted positively company efficiency and reactivity, thus the agility of the whole organization. In fact, it ensured accurate and efficient and constant up and down communication. It had 3 virtues in my opinion. The first, reinforced recommendation and guidelines to help minimize the transmission of disease amongst potential customers. Second was to reduce stress and create a sense of community across the company. And third, it eradicated friction and silos across the department. So the communication needed to be bidirectional. The first, top down, to be able to provide regular, transparent, and curated information to each and every employee, such as a process change, company info on change of strategy, safety guidelines, or maybe providing the payslip in digital format or provide information on time shift. So frontline managers and employees were able to know what to expect, what their role was, and how they can help and in the end be efficient and reactive. And then it should be bottom up to understand how employees feel, what are their challenge on virtual basis, what kind of support they needed to get in timely manner the relevant solution to support them. I want to take the case of Puma. During the COVID, Puma used a large panel of communication coming from video messaging, live streaming, online learning on daily basis to communicate with their employees. They also use a lot of this learning, including providing employees with digital sessions to help them cope with the stress of combining work with homeschooling and caregiving. So Workday Mobility was the perfect medium to do that and reach the whole workforce across the organization. And adoption rate raised from 48% to 67%. But now, Han, maybe you want to complement what I just said?
Yes, thanks, Laurent. Happy to. We share a view that in times of COVID-19, we see a persisting shift towards virtual ways of working. In fact, our retail consumer research shows that 53% of all surveyed participants who had never worked from home before the pandemic reported that they now would like to do so more often and work from home more often in the future. This demands a stronger focus on retaining the company culture, the company communication, and the sense of belonging, which would correspond to the relational need in our net better off model. To get the basics right, we have helped a number of consumer goods and services and retail clients during the crisis to embrace virtual collaboration technology and adopting virtual ways of working and leadership, which is essential to keep employees motivated and engaged in these times of crisis. Now, when it comes to keeping employees engaged in their company culture and purpose, we have, for example, implemented an artificial intelligence-based employee relationship management approach for one of our consumer goods clients. It enables them to segment their employees according to their information needs when it comes to company purpose, culture, and a sense of belonging. Based on the tailored communication that speak to these different employee segments and the continuous monitoring of the employee update, we have been able to refine the approach and further increase employee engagement even in times of a completely virtual setting. When it comes to increased collaboration across business units and ecosystems that we see as an additional trend rising post the pandemic, I'd again like to quote some of our findings and trends from the consumer research. In the latest data, we found that 73% of all surveyed participants considered their home as one of the top 3 preferred locations for socialization. Do-it-yourself, home decor, home cooking, and baking saw a huge increase of 4 times the number of hashtags than before the pandemic. So there is a large opportunities for retailers to consider how to serve these new social and creative occasions in the home and to formalize and commercialize them through new business models and service. With regards to where and how consumers shop, we already see the trend that retail companies are starting to review the locations and formats of their stores, given the continued focus on the home for living and working and on local and neighborhood shopping. For example, Kohl's and Amazon expand their partnership to grocery with an Amazon Fresh to be opened inside a California's Kohl's location. Although the stores will be separated by a wall, the partnership is expected to drive foot traffic for Kohl's while allowing them to reduce their store sizes. And Amazon is pursuing similar partnerships with multiple retailers to expand on their side their physical grocery locations. So this example of collaboration across company boundaries is a clear example of increased organizational agility that will help retailers to strengthen their resilience in these times. Now, I'm interested to hear, Laurent, your view on increased collaboration across business units and across the ecosystem.
Yeah, collaboration is a big topic, and I want to quote Plato on that in the Republic. Necessity is the mother of invention. It has never been so true if we look at the recent blooming of creativity in collaboration initiative. 2 examples, one on internal. John Lewis, one of our customers, has to move 8,000 employees overnight from their quarter working from home. They had to reinvent what collaboration meant inside the 4 walls of the company to continue operate virtually. The second example is more around outside of the 4 walls. You mentioned that there is more and more of, I would say, collaboration between different companies. We see that happening with customer of ours like Ocado, helping grocery retailer like Marks and Spencer to support scalability in online commerce, or Deliveroo, one of our customer, also teaming with Waitrose to offer its customer an innovative way of fast delivery service.
Great. That's great insight. I mean, I love the idea of not just looking at communication and collaboration within the organization, but looking at it outside the organization and how retailers and CPG companies are working together during this unprecedented time. Let's move to question 4. It's important for retailers to have mechanisms in place to manage, mitigate, and minimize disruption. Having access to timely and relevant data helps them to respond to changes quickly and efficiently. How does having real-time insight that can be shared amongst all stakeholders across the organization accelerate informed decision-making?
Access to real-time, accurate, and contextualized data is critical when prompting a question like where the virus is spreading and where clusters are located, where lockdown restrictions have been reinforced or loosened, where my workforce is located, what's the absenteeism rate look like. So maturity in data culture and data access democratization allows organizations to get accurate and instant insight on the global situation, to evaluate what are your options, and also improve speed and quality of decision making in providing contextualized information of each stakeholder across the value chain. We have the example of 7-Eleven Australia. During the COVID first wave, the access to data was critical. First, to identify what were the absenteeism trends, what were the visa restrictions for employees, allowing them to monitor the situation in real time. And second, allow a quick extraction of information regarding workforce by location to allow them to put in place swift execution of business continuity measure, such as splitting team to have the right staffing across store. Anne, would you like to comment on that?
Sure, thanks, Laurent. We see that data democratization and actionable insights are nowadays not only relevant in HR, but also in other functional areas. So the latest data from our consumer research suggests that there will be a huge increase of 169% in e-commerce purchases from new or low-frequency users post the outbreak. And the vast majority of consumers who have increased their use of digital and omnichannels expect to sustain these activities into the future. In line with that trend, we also see that B2B businesses show strongly increasing expectations for digital and omnichannel interactions. But while 61% of all B2B transactions now start online, only 1/3 of CSOs are confident that the customers consistently have positive interactions in every channel they use. So sales workforces need to be equipped with deep customer insight in order to further improve their performance. And likewise, marketing employees need a deep understanding of the new consumers. So for retailers, it's now essential to retain new consumers and sustain new channels or increased levels of usage by exploring key purchase motivators such as price, payment models, support, and experience. And this is only possible with the right, real-time, and contextualized data. And while the update of HR and functional cloud platforms has varied by client in the past, we definitely see an acceleration in demand in these times because the provided analytics will help retail companies to further increase their organizational agility.
We have touched on how skills, engagement, collaboration, communication, and insights can impact organizational agility. So much insight and so much real life experiences from both of our panelists today. I'd like to thank you both for sharing these insights and expertise. As you have heard, organizational agility is key to driving long-term growth and success for retailers and consumer product good organizations. As we wrap up our session today, I'd like to ask our panelists for any closing comments or recommendations on how retailers can continuously strive for organizational agility. Laurent, do you have any last words?
Yes. So I would say, considering the context of the last months, reaching a certain level of organizational agility will be vital for retail and CPG companies to survive and thrive. Answer a question like, can you transform your head office into a flexible remote working team? Can we replace cashier-based model with seamless not checkout models? Will occur on the way of the transformation. In this context, adaptation will also come from our ability to embrace future trends through continuous innovation. On this particular aspect, cloud, SaaS, and PaaS technology will be instrumental to unleash innovation and free up company resources.
I was just going to ask Anne for your final recommendations as well.
Thanks, Jennifer, and thanks, Laurent. To just complement on your last perceptions you mentioned, I would like to highlight that once again, our consumer research has shown that retail consumers are now striving to shop more locally, mindfully, and cost consciously. So in our view, continuous innovation must also consider global climates and sustainable aspects, because consumers are making more environmentally friendly, sustainable, or ethical purchases. So now's the moment to adopt the environmental, social, and governance practices that will allow a company to thrive again. In retail, taking carbon as an example, food and grocery alone account for 26% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Retailers will be well advised to take technology as a key enabler to accelerate and enable the end-to-end transformation that will make them more sustainable and at the same time more agile. Resetting expenses and operating models, optimizing the supply chain, and enabling smart and responsible sourcing and capturing the power of data. Technology will make all of that possible. Thank you very much for having me.
So again, thank you so much to our panelists for helping us and sharing their expertise today. I also want to thank you all for your time and joining our session. I'd like to welcome you to visit Workday.com, where you can find more information on how Workday has helped our customers in the retail and consumer product goods space and many other industries become more agile during this COVID pandemic and beyond. Thanks again.